that stuff, my mom was listening in because she always wants to know what my book 5 is about. So then, one day when I was interviewing my dad, my mom came in and said, 哪里好听这样？这种事也要讲。Which is like, why would you want to talk about things like this, because it's so boring. So after I interviewed my dad, my mom was concerned enough to pull me aside and she said, if this book is going to be just about Papa's story, it's going to be so boring. Yeah, and I have that quote in the book, So I was like, how dare you challenge me like this, Because first 20 years of my life, my dad doubted me, right? And then now, my mom doubts me. So I was like, I'm gonna make this book amazing, but I'm also gonna slip in your stories because you think dad's story is so boring, right? So maybe people would think your stories are boring too. But my initial plan was to write my dad's story, book 5, and then book 6 would be my mom's story, because my dad is the 5th son of the family, so I'll dedicate book 5 to him. 6, I don't know why I would dedicate to my mom.
6.
Yeah, there's nothing associated to that. So I was like, I'm planning to keep my mom's story for book 6. But as I was interviewing her, I realized that because she already reads my books, she would probably have enough time to make up a fairy tale about her story. Because she's the type that only wants you to write the good stuff. She never wants you to write the ugly stuff about the family, So I was like, I'm not going to give her this chance. I'm going to secretly tape her as she's telling me stories. So don't give her a year to prepare,
Take 3 years.
But the problem with my mom's story is that my mom actually needs time to formulate a proper sentence that I can understand. So when she tells me that things like 你小时候你的婆婆的婆婆照顾婆婆 which means like your grandma's grandma took care of grandma. Like the minute she said that, man, I was like, I kind of regret writing this book really, because so my plan was to have my dad's story, and then if it gets too boring, throw in some of my mom's rubbish, and then continue my dad's sad stories, right? But then as I'm interviewing my dad, I realized that in one of the stories, they were just, I never knew how my parents met. So as he told me the story, and I realized that they were just neighbors living across the street from each other, suddenly everything made sense. Because my mom used to tell, like my dad used to tell me, 我小时候脾气很坏, which means I had a bad temper, And then my mom would come in and say, yeah, 他小时候脾气很坏, like 脸黑黑没有人敢跟他讲话, which means like he's always got a grumpy face and no one dare to talk to him. And then I'm like, how do you know all this? So I just thought like she just wanted to chip in for the sake of chipping in. But when I realized that they lived across the street from each other, I realized that my book has to end in the middle with them living across the street from each other. And then I was like, this is a great book format. But my plan was to write my dad's story, and when it got too boring, slip in 1 or 2 of my mom's stories to break up the flow. But now that I separate the books in half, that means I can only keep 50 of my dad's stories, and then the other stories has to be my mom. It means that I have to sit through 50 of her garbage.